Did Nat Turner know he was an Israelite? Giving all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem HaKakwadash. And this is an article. I'll leave the link in the description box. This is from the Baltimore Sun. And this article was written back in 1994, entitled "A Tall Tale of Nat Turner and the Jews." So I'm going to read the second paragraph of this article. You can read the whole story or the entire article, and you can do some more research on Nat Turner. Anyway, what inspired me to search for this article is a video that was put up by a Mike Winger, so-called pastor, invited the infamous Vocab Malone on his show, which was put up about a month ago. I didn't check out the whole video, but the video is an hour and 38, almost an hour and 39 minutes long. And this is about the 11 minutes 26 second in, and I'll just let you listen, and I'll read part of that article.
It's a suburb of Chicago.
So, on that note, real quick, just, okay, overall, there's lots of, and this is what I've learned from watching your content here, you talk about this, there's tons of different groups, and they're not, sometimes...
Okay, I'm looking at, this was a live stream, and there was a comment put up by Still Small Voice. It says, BHI, which stands for Black Hebrew Israelites, sound like a racist cult. Yeah, that's what these devils do. They're good at demonizing us. Well, the fact that we were brought over here to serve slavery, that's a racist act. So this has to be a racist country. The greatness, of this country, and the riches, what made this country rich, is an act of hatred and racism by so-called white people to so-called black people. And we believe and teach that the reason why we were brought over here against our wills to serve slavery is a fulfillment of many precepts. Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, comes into mind. Joel, the 3rd chapter, comes to mind. And other scriptures. See, all these signs point to us as being the Israelites. So if can you call the Armenian people, which at one point in history as a group, as a nation, was almost wiped out by the Turkish? I grew up with Armenian people, and they have a deep hatred for Turkish people because of that slaughter, because of what happened in history. So that's that. Can you call an Armenian a racist? No, they hate the Turkish because of what they did as a nation to another nation. The fact that you have so-called Jews suing the German government after the death of Hitler. Can you say that the Jews were racist against Germans? No, they were. Their hate was focused on the Germans because of what they did at one point in history. So for you to say that we're racist, I mean, we are racist because we know through history that you Edomites brought us over here against our will to serve our wills to serve slavery in America. So we know that history and we hate you for it. And the scriptures even tell you, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. So we're looking to enslave so-called white people. And that's and that's all throughout the scriptures. You have one nation taking over another nation. Anyway, let me let you listen. But I had to read that statement. See, that's why we call you a bunch of devils. The fact that we're over here in America is racism. The worst kind of racism. Raped our women, killed our men, women, babies, separated families. And you're going to have to pay. True reparation is to enslave somebody that enslaved you. To enslave one people, one group of people, one race of people because of what they did to another race of people. You're not going to get out of this. Your future is slavery. Hardcore slavery, as we phrase it. So let's listen to this.
Sometimes not friendly at all with each other. There's some infighting that goes on. So, Hebrew Israelites is like a big umbrella that represents a lot of things, and you're aware of the nuances there. But as far as the umbrella goes, how many people are we talking about, and how quickly is it growing as far as current?
Yeah, they're concerned. This devil is concerned of how quickly is it growing. I'm like China. At one time, America didn't take China seriously. Now they look at China with a serious eye. Why? Because China is growing as a people. There's over 1 billion Chinese in China. Now, how many Chinese are scattered throughout the world? And economically, as far as manufacturing is concerned, as far as exporting goods around the world, China is number one. So there's a concern as to how big economically, militarily, are they going to grow. They're concerned that, hey, we treated the Chinese like shit. And they're growing economically and militarily. And in their mind, they want to destroy the so-called white man. So that's why this devil here said what he said. He said, and more importantly, how much are they grow? You have a group of people that's raised up to take over the world. You become concerned about it. Let's listen to this devil again.
Don't see on the street. An example of that group would be Israel of God, which Mike has a 6 be done. And this is fascinating. Lifeway Research recently, Mike, they did a research on Black Americans' views on Israel.
I'm sorry, I went past it. Let me bring back.
Be done. And this is fact.
As far as currently,
that
there's some infighting that goes on. So you know,
yeah, that's what they want, infighting. Hey, we ain't fighting each other. We might talk against each other, but we ain't fighting each other. And ultimately, all Israel they're gonna come together as a nation in the kingdom in love.
Hebrew Israelites is like a big umbrella that represents a lot of things, and you're aware of the nuances there. But as far as the umbrella goes, how many people are we talking about, and how quickly is it growing?
Yeah, when a general goes to attack a place, another country, the scriptures say count the cost. Whether you need 100 men or 10,000 men, you have to know what the number of men in that and your enemy's military. If you have 1,000 men and you realize that you went up against another nation and there's a 1,000,000-man army, that's it. That's what this devil is concerned about. Let's listen to that again. Let's listen to this devil again.
You know, particularly I think the place is called Riverdale, but it's a suburb of South Chicago.
So, on that note, real quick, just, okay, overall, there's lots of, and this is what I've learned from watching your content here, and you talk about this, there's tons of different groups, and they're not...
He said tons. He said there's tons of different groups. And this is, and they identify with, or should identify with the fact that that's the fulfillment of Ezekiel, the 37th chapter. It speaks about the heathens being under great fear. That's also in Revelation 11th chapter.
Sometimes not friendly at all with each other. There's some infighting that goes on. So, you know, Hebrew Israelites is like a big umbrella that represents a lot of things, and you're aware of the nuances there. But as far as the umbrella goes, how many people are we talking about, and how quickly is it growing as far as currently?
I gotta say it again. He says, how quickly are they growing? Is this group growing? And he's concerned about that. Because if we're teaching that ultimately you're going to go into slavery, in the back of his mind he's saying, what if they're right? That's what this devil's saying.
That's what's fascinating. I'm actually going to...
Okay, there's another comment. I'm not going to show it to you, but I'm going to read it. It says, Humphrey Bogus. Could someone explain what 144,000 of every nation means? I'm confused. Well, it doesn't say that in Revelation the 7th chapter. It says 144,000 out of the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel, or the children of Israel. Mention the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Gad, the tribe of Ephraim, or actually Joseph, which is the tribe of Ephraim. So that's referring to Israelites. See, another thing that these Christians have to do is learn how to read. Let's listen on.
Read something here briefly from a little article that was recently done. And this is fascinating. Lifeway Research recently, Mike, they did a research on Black Americans' views on Israel. And listen to an excerpt that summarizes the findings, okay? Many African Americans said they think more positively about the nation of Israel because of the historic connections between their journey of because between the journey of their ethnicity and the journey of the Jews. So just pause real quick. That's sort of historic. If you listen to a lot of the old spirituals, for example, there's connections because they saw a parallel in the suffering, right? Or here,
yeah, because they are the Israelites. And when I read this article about Nat Turner, he's going to pretty much say the same thing. Or in the article, it's going to pretty much say the same thing. Nat Turner believed that he was a prophet of God, and he related with the Israelites in Egypt. And I'm going to read that.
Harriet Tubman was called Moses, for example, right? So that parallel was understood by many. Nat Turner, I'm not saying that killing babies like Nat Turner ended up doing was good, but he did.
Well, I'm not saying that killing babies. He had to say that killing babies. Well, guess what? If you read Psalms 137 verse 8, I believe it's verse 8 and 9. Start at verse 8, of course. It says, it speaks about the killing of babies.
Did understand a parallel between Israelites and Black Americans' plight, right? And I wouldn't disagree with that part. Now, the Hebrew Israelites try to claim that he actually talked to Israelites. That's not true. But
see how that's how the devil operates. Let me let you. Then he says that's not true because vocab said that's not true. Let's listen again. Let's listen to this again.
Many. Nat Turner, I'm not saying that killing babies like Nat Turner ended up doing was good, but he did understand a parallel between Israelites and Black Americans' plight, right? And I wouldn't.
Yeah, because we suffered the same plight. When you if you Google slaves in Egypt and you go to images, you're going to see so-called black people working, building pyramids, building cities under the taskmasters, which were Egyptians. And you can notice in the particular images, if you look it up, that there were one group of people that were taller than the other group of people, and the Egyptians, which were Mizraim, were taller than the Israelites. Those are the people of the Sudanese, the people of South Sudan. And Sudan is south of Egypt. So if you ask yourself, where did the original Egyptians go? Did they get beamed up into a spaceship and go into the heavens? Did they go underground? Did they disappear? No. They went down south, literally. They went down south. They went from Egypt to Sudan, which is cut up, thanks to the so-called white man, Esau, into two governments, North Sudan and South Sudan. And when you go back to Google and put up Sudanese, South Sudanese, North Sudanese, and go to images, and you'll see them being very thin, very tall. Give you an example. Manute Bol, his line goes directly back to the ancient Egyptians. His mother was, I guess, 7 foot something. Her father was almost 8 foot. I could be wrong, but he was almost 8 foot. I met him. He was so tall. When I actually saw him, it was scary, man. I had to kind of take a step back. And that's long before I came into the truth. And I come to realize that, like I said, the ancient Egyptians were super tall, freakishly tall. So let's listen to a little bit more. So not only have we identified ourselves as being Israelites, the descendants of Israelites, Nat Turner identified himself with the Israelites of ancient Egypt. Why? Because we are those people.
Disagree with that part. Now, the Hebrew Israelites try to claim that he actually taught they were Israelites. That's not true. But that's historic, but it's morphed into something more. Continuing on real quick, check this out. Around a quarter said their opinion of Israel has been positively influenced due to historic parallels between the enslavement of Jews in ancient Egypt and blacks in America, 27%. And due to the similarities between the two groups overcoming oppression, Jewish people in pursuing the promised land and African Americans pursuing civil rights.
Yeah, those Jewish people that were looking to go to the promised land were so-called black people. Go back to Google, put in Israelites enslaved or captives under the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians. You hit images, you're going to see black people which are shorter than another group of black people building things. So we are those people.
26%. Interestingly, most respondents to the survey, 62%, said they were not familiar with the teachings of black Hebrew Israelites. So they actually asked them this in this Lifeway research, which is a big deal. So 62% didn't even hear about it. A group that contends that black Americans are physical descendants of the ancient Israelites. Very few, 4%, considered themselves to be a black Hebrew Israelite. Now, 4% may not sound like much. So people are like, we don't got to worry about these guys. Ladies and gentlemen, 4% of black America is 1.5 million people. If you do the numbers, depending on how you count it, because there's these issues of how do you count so-called biracial people, and there's these questions about who counts, but it's about 1.5 million people who self-identify in some way as a Hebrew Israelite. Now, does that mean there's 1.5 million people ready to go stand out on your local metropolitan street corner on a Saturday and yell at you for 4 hours? No. But that certainly is part of an aspect, probably the most visible part of Hebrew Israelism if you live in a city.
And this cracker, you got to watch this video, Mike Winger, the religious belief of the black Hebrew Israelites with vocab Malone. If I remember, I'll put it in the description box. You can see this, the old saying, he's getting hot under the collar, he's sweating, and he's getting nervous. And you got vocab, he's saying, well, 4% doesn't seem like a big number, but you know, when you put the numbers together, when you do the math, there's 1.4 million people that know that they're Israelites. So this devil on the right of your screen, he's saying, I hope these people don't wake up, man. Because when we do wake up as a whole, that's when they go down. Let me tell you something. These devils, they're not sleeping too good. Let's listen to a little bit more, then I'll go into the article. And we know all the scriptures that come to mind. Isaiah chapter 14, verse 1 and 2. It clearly says that we shall make them captives whose captives we were. Joel, the 3rd chapter I mentioned. Deuteronomy 30, verse 7. So there's many Revelation, Joel 3, I think I mentioned that. Isaiah 60, Isaiah 61. So let's listen on.
Yeah, I have seen them
4% is actually a big deal.
Yeah, I have seen them out here in Long Beach. Not recently, since COVID, pretty much, but before that, up on Downey Avenue. and you can, I look and I'm like, those are Jehovah's Witnesses, those are Mormons, those are Hebrew Israelites. Like, you could just tell.
Right. Yeah.
Now, take me back like 30 years from 30 years ago, 1991, like how many were there then in the U.S.? Because it seems like I'd never heard of this before.
Right. Well,
yeah, this devil right here on the right, he's scared. He's afraid of the numbers. You know, the numbers are growing, and he's getting nervous. He's saying, I hope, you know, dear Father God, I hope that these people don't wake up. Anyway, you know what I'm gonna do? I don't want to make this real long, but I'm gonna go to the article, and I'm just gonna read the second paragraph of this article, A Tall Tale of Nat Turner and the Jews. It says, for Turner, whose inquisitive mind taught him to read and immersed him deeply in the Bible. Now, let's get one thing straight before we go on. It was against the law for a Negro to learn to know how to read and write, and it was definitely against the law to read the Bible. From what I heard from various accounts, that if you were caught reading the Bible, you were put to death. If you were caught reading, you were hung and whipped. If you were caught reading the Bible, you were put to death. Now, I don't have the data in front of me, the information in front of me, but if anybody has it, they can bring it up. I may go into it, you know, get some documentation as to did certain slave masters put so-called blacks to death for reading the Bible. It says, for Turner, whose inquisitive mind taught him to read and immerse him deeply in the Bible, saw himself, Nat Turner saw himself by virtually all accounts as an Old Testament prophet. The Old Testament prophets were of what nation? Israelites. So if he saw himself as being an Old Testament prophet, he identified himself with being an Israelite. Whether he had the insight to say we are the direct lineage of the Israelites, it doesn't say that. But he identified himself as an Old Testament prophet, called by God. The Most High is dealing with who? The Israelites. Psalms 147 verses 19 and 20. He have not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgments, they have not known them. So for him to identify himself with an Old Testament prophet and believe that God was talking to him, he had to believe that he was an Israelite. It says to lead his people, like the vast majority of 19th century American blacks whose spirituals, meaning songs, Negro spirituals, whose spirituals repeatedly call for the image of the children of Israel. So why were they singing songs about Israel? Because they were the Israelites. When they were in hard bondage under the Edomites, that was the fulfillment of Deuteronomy the 28th chapter and many other verses in the scriptures. So this information is overwhelming. That's why that devil was sweating. It says he identified with the Jewish people. The Jewish people, what the fuck does that mean? He identified himself with Israelites. Anyway, I'm not going to read anymore. Like I said, you can read the article yourself. And I'm going to say shalom.